الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهداه إلى يوم الدين. First of all, I answered Shumaila's question about when you get an animal, a horse or a camel or whatever, to have a new generation, a good generation, a strong generation. Is it permissible or it's not permissible? I gave a complete answer in the beginning of the last lecture that I recorded. So you can go back to that and listen to it. But just remind me the second question, because I forgot the second question, so that I can.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I believe the second question was that it was based on the hadith where if a person wants to set a contract, duration of time, but they were not able to make the payments for the whole thing, and halfway through they say, okay, I give up. So
Yeah, I got it now.
Muslim, do we extend them? I would believe ihsan would be to give them something, but logically it seems that it's gone.
Yes. Okay, I'll search for that and answer you. Okay, now as I gave the lectures last, I send it to you. So therefore, I'm going to start from where I stopped. So I stopped in this hadith. وعن معمر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنه عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يحتكر إلا خاطئ. لا يحتكر إلا خاطئ رواه مسلم. This is speaking about manipulation. Allah's Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم said, none withholds good till the price rises, but a sinner. Reported by Muslim. This is speaking about manipulation, which means you don't put your commodity in the market until it becomes so expensive because it doesn't exist in the market. And therefore, you get it out and you sell it with a high price. So this hadith means that manipulation is forbidden, because it means that you're not treating your Muslim brothers in a proper way. And because it means that you're a greedy person and you're searching for filling your pocket, even if you harm others, no matter they're Muslims or not Muslims. Actually, it's not only Muslims, because when we speak about a Muslim in a society, he has to be a real a person with good morals. So therefore, this act is not to be from a proper person, but from a sinner. Now, here there are several narrations about this hadith. Some of them speak about food, and some of them are in general. So therefore, scholars have several opinions about this case. So the majority of scholars say that it's forbidden for you to hide food that people need, grains, and wheat, bread, all these things that people need to eat every day, and the food of their animals. And if I can say and add to this, the fuel of their cars, because when people don't find fuel in the market, it becomes very expensive, and that affects people's economic. So therefore, these scholars said that the open and general narrations are specified by other narrations that spoke about hiding food, not hiding everything. So therefore, And this actually is the main thing that affects people, because if you hide other things that aren't, I mean, that aren't important and people don't need, and only people who love go search for it, it's not a big deal because they're going to search for it and find it. But food, people need it, and they can't pay. And they and when they need it, they might pay anything to get it. People need grains. People need general food. People need fuel, and if they don't find that, it's a big problem for them. Okay, so therefore, um, the majority of scholars went saw this, understood this hadith from this perspective. Um, and Abu Yusuf, the main student of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, said anything that affects people and you hide it, that is considered as manipulation, and who does that is a wrongdoer. No matter it's gold, it's clothes, it's anything. So he went deriving from this hadith a general case, which means that he doesn't say that only food is the case, is the thing that you're not allowed to manipulate. It's everything. Therefore, nowadays we find that when you stop or hide fuel, this makes the whole country go with high prices, especially when it's cold in the winter. You know, in the winter, people all need fuel. They need it to use it in their houses. They need it to use it in a lot of things, and they need to heat their houses and stuff like that. So when you stop fuel, you monopolize it. That makes everything expensive. And what makes everything expensive is that the fuel becomes so expensive. So the fuel that you put in the cars becomes so expensive. And therefore, when they want to go from a place to another, they demand for high prices. And that makes all the country high prices, which affects everybody in the country. And therefore, anything that is important for people, no matter it's food or not food, if you hide it, that is haram. That is haram. This is the opinion of Al-Qadi Abu Yusuf rahimahullah, and actually this fits on the narrations that we saw, because old scholars spoke about animals food. They said animals food and human beings food. So we can say nowadays cars food. Our cars need food, which means that actually if you don't give the car food, the car won't go. It's the same if you don't give your animals food in the ancient days, the animals won't go. They'll die. So therefore, the case is the same. Hoarding and price gouging. This is ihtikari mean? What about the word manipulating or monopoly? Doesn't it mean ihtikar?
Yeah, you say it's a monopoly, and then to do it is monopolize. And then what he was talking about is inflation as a cause of.
Oh yeah.
And then the other one was price gouging, where because of inflation, instead of something being $10, they'll mark it up to 20, 25.
Yeah.
It's sick.
Okay, thanks a lot. You know, I studied in the beginning business administration and stuff like that, and we used to study even economics. So that cuts with what we study now in these chapters that have to do with transactions and all things that have to do with economics and stuff like that. So anyway, this is the case. I think you got the idea. So anyway, scholars say that the difference between these two groups of scholars is actually only a word difference, which means all of them agree about the idea. All of them agree about the idea, but sometimes scholars, when they want it to express something, they say it in a way that the one that doesn't understand thinks that they have difference between each other, but actually they don't have any difference. Why? Because the principles of Islam, or the principles of Islamic jurisprudence, makes monopolying anything that affects and harms people when it doesn't exist. That makes it haram, that makes it forbidden, you see? And therefore, one of the great books of Hanafi school says Abu Yusuf, who is the great student of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, was a great judge of the Abbasid Empire. You know, Abu Yusuf was a great man. Even his post in the I won't say in the state, is in the Abbasid Empire. It was a great empire, actually, from Morocco to China, and from Azerbaijan to Abyssinia. It's a great empire, you know. So he says that Abu Yusuf went speaking directly to the harm that would harm people, because it's the main thing that makes this act forbidden. Abu Hanifa and all other scholars searched for speaking about the harm that they saw in their era. So actually, they spoke about their era, where Abu Yusuf spoke about a general case, and all of them agree about that, actually. No one would say Imam Malik or Shafi or Abu Hanifa or Ahmed or any other Imam. No one of them would say, if you ask him nowadays, what about fuel? Are we allowed to hide it and not give it to people until they starve and they need it and they might buy it with all money that they can have? Is that proper? Of course, it's not proper. It's the same thing when you have war, the days of war, and you have some people, some greedy people who hide a lot of commodities so that it becomes very expensive, and then they go selling it, and people so sorry go buying it with any type of money because they need it. And this is a type of greedy act. No proper Muslim would do that. And these guys actually need to be punished for what they do, what they're doing. Now, is monopoly sometimes, is it permissible? Well, if we have the commodity everywhere and everybody has it, but if I put it, I'm gonna sell it just so cheap. And if I hide it, that won't affect people because everybody sells it. So therefore, no problem. No problem about that. If I hide it sometime, no problem about that. And if I hide things that aren't the main food of people, it's just luxury. People who love it, some sweets, some stuff like that. If I hide it, it won't affect any other people. So no problem if I hide it until I want to buy it. In when I want to sell, I'll sell it. Okay, I think this is clear. Okay, now this is a type of cheating. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا تصر الإبل والغنم فمن ابتاعها فهو بعد فمن ابتاعها بعد فهو بخير النظرين بعد أن يحلبها إن شاء أمسكها وإن شاء ردها وصاعا من تمر متفق عليه ولمسلم فهو بالخيار 3 أيام وفي رواية له علقها البخاري ورد معها صاعا من طعام لا سمراء. قال البخاري والتمر أكثر. وعن ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه قال من اشترى شاة محفلة فردها فليرد معها صاعا. رواه البخاري وزاد الإسماعيلي من تمر. Okay. Narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, don't tie up the udders of animals and goats, of camels and goats. He who buys them after that has been done, which after that has been done, has two choices open to him after milking them. He may keep them if he wishes, or may return them along with one sa' of dates agreed upon. Muslim has 3 days in which to decide whether to keep them or not. Another narration by Muslim, which al-Bukhari reported as mu'allaq, which is with a broken chain, as he returned with one sa' of any grain but wheat. Al-Bukhari said one sa' of dates is mentioned in more narrations than not. Okay, what's this hadith speaking about? This hadith means that you're not allowed to have a goat or a sheep, ram, cows, and any type of animals that gives milk. You're not allowed to hide the she animal, the female animal, from its babies so that they won't be able to suckle from it, and you don't suckle it until its breast becomes big, full of milk. So when people want to buy it, they think that it's always like that. It's full of milk. And sometimes what do? They don't prevent animals from that. No. They tie the breast until it becomes so full of milk. And then they retie it again, and then they go to the market and sell it. So you think that, oh, mashallah, this animal has lots of milk and it's going to mean lots of, so you go buying it. And then when you go back home and you take the milk, you discover that you were tricked. So in this case, what is the situation? Okay. Now, the first thing, that this action is haram because it's cheating. And therefore, all scholars agree that this is a forbidden action. What if this happened? And when you bought it, you discovered it. So there are two opinions about this. The first one, which is the opinion of the majority of scholars, since the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, the Tabi'een and other Imams, the three Imams, they said, which are Malik, Shafi'i, and Ahmad, all of them said this transaction is considered as a valid transaction. But although it's valid, the buyer has the opportunity, the choice to leave it as it is, or to nullify the transaction and give the ram or the cow or the, I don't know what, the animal to its owner. But because he took milk from it, he would add to it a sar. What is sar? Sar is 4 full hands of anything, or full 2 hands with anything, which means here sar of dates, which means the cost of the milk that you bought, that you took, because you took the animal, you benefit from the milk, but because you were tricked, you have to give it back to them. But you don't know, you have the choice to give it back to them. So this is the majority of scholars' opinion. And it doesn't matter the milk was a lot or was only few milk, it doesn't matter. You just give this this dates, and no, doesn't matter if that the dates are the food of that country or not food of that country, because the hadith didn't mention all that. So therefore, the majority of scholars took this hadith as it is without giving any other opinions. The other opinion is Abu Hanifa, and it's the Hanafi opinion in the whole Hanafi school. They said you are the transaction.
Sheikh, your audio cut out right when you were gonna say their opinion.
It happens sometimes. It lags.
Yeah, I think he might have left the Zoom call by accident or his internet cut out.
It happens, but inshallah, on the recording, it's seamless and perfect. I don't know why that is, but
Yeah. So therefore, I said that Abu Hanifa and the Hanafi school says that you're not supposed to give the animal, you're not supposed to nullify the transaction, which means you're not supposed to give him back his camel or his animal, no matter it's a camel or a cow or a ram or whatever, and get back your money and do what the hadith says. They say no, he is responsible, the owner of the animal, to give you the difference because you were cheated. So this animal doesn't cost the cost that you bought it with. So he has to pay you the difference. You see? This is Abu Hanifa's opinion, the Hanafi school's opinion. Now, what is there of evidence about that? What is the evidence about that? They said, Allah Almighty says in the Quran, and when you want to punish somebody, you have to punish him as he punished you. Okay, the word punish here and punish here, the first one, you're punishing him because he treated you bad. But actually, he didn't punish you, but it's just a same word in using. So therefore, this hadith, according to the Hanafis, is not going according to, they say, according to logic. This is what they said. It's hard for me to say this, but they say it's not going according to logic or according to analogy, which is actually the whole Islamic jurisprudence. It's logic, actually. So therefore, they say it has several difficulties, several problems. The first one is that milk here that you consumed doesn't have anything to do with the whole transaction. So the transaction, you bought a camel, you bought a cow, you bought a ram or whatever, you didn't buy the milk, you bought the whole animal. So therefore, if there is okay. Okay, are you with me? Did you get the idea? Yeah. Did you get the idea? The first idea is that the animal, you bought the whole animal. You didn't buy milk or part of the animal. The second thing is that we have in Islamic jurisprudence in transactions what is called the choice. And the choice means you have the choice to buy or nullify the whole transaction if it has several types of it has khiyarul aib, which means if you found any problem in it, or khiyarul majlis, which means as long as you're sitting down and you're still discussing about the transaction, you have the right to nullify or buy. And khiyarul ru'ya, which means when you buy something and you didn't see it, you need to see it. And therefore, if you see it, you have the right to buy or leave the commodity. So therefore, this doesn't fit in any one of these, according to them, according to the Hanafis. And so others said no. These 3 days in the hadith are because we don't know. The one that bought, he never knew that this happened. He didn't know that. Where actually other problems, you know them, or you search for them, or you tell the that I bought this commodity without any problem in it. Okay. Number 3. Number 3. Now, when the milk is reduced from the animal, you didn't buy the animal with the condition that it has to have milk or not have milk. Okay? And you didn't say, if I don't find milk or I found milk less than what I want, I'll give it back to you or something like that. You didn't say that. So he says, if you said that you're allowed to give back this animal without any problem in it and without any condition, that's not permissible. You're not allowed to do that because you bought it. That's it. So you're not allowed to give it back unless you find a problem in it. But the others said, the other scholars, who are the majority of scholars, they said that the sailor cheated. He meant to fill its breast with milk. He tied it so it became full of milk. So he made he attracted the people to buy it. So it's as if he made it as a condition. Look, guys, this she camel is full of milk. This cow is full of milk. Now come and buy it. He didn't say that, but he did an action that makes people do that. You see? So therefore, it's like he gave the buyer the right to nullify the whole transaction when he finds any problem in it. This is the opinion of the majority. And therefore, the evidence of the majority of scholars is Okay. So therefore, the majority's evidence is more strong because the hadith is authentic, and all what the Hanafis are saying are things that are claimed to be logic, but actually we never reject any authentic hadith by our sense or our minds. And therefore, it's the only opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa and his student Muhammad ibn Hassan, but the others didn't agree about that. Although it's the Hanafis, the whole Hanafi school's opinion, but the majority scholars are more stronger in this. And therefore, we have to follow the majority's opinion. So actually, this is clear, alhamdulillah. Now here, the hadith gives us main principles. It gives us, first thing, that it prevents us from cheating in buying and selling. So any cheat, hiding any problems, doing all these types of things, this is forbidden. You're not allowed to do that. Number two, it gives us the opportunity to give back the commodity when we discover that we were cheated. Number three, it means that if there's a cheat, you have the right to reject and nullify the transaction, but the transaction is valid. Or else, if the transaction wasn't valid, he won't give you the right to nullify it because it's nullified from the beginning. You see? Number three, you have only 3 days to decide, not more. So you can't come after 1 week and say, well, I discovered that there is a problem in the no. After a week, we won't hear from you anything, because why did you leave it until this day and then you gave it back? Okay. Okay, so therefore, we have here عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مر على صبرة طعام فأدخل يده فيها فنالت أصابعه بللا فقال ما هذا يا صاحب الطعام؟ قال أصابته السماء يا رسول الله. قال فلا جعلته فوق الطعام كي يراه الناس من غش فليس مني. رواه مسلم. Now here, this gives us a general case. This gives us a general case. Look. Narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam once came upon a heap of grain. And when he put his hands inside it, his fingers felt some dampness. So he asked, what is this, O owner of the grain? He replied, rain had fallen on it, O Allah's Messenger. He said, why didn't you put it, the dump part, on the top of the food stuff, so that people might see it? Whoever cheats has nothing to do with me. Response reported by Muslim. This is the main idea. Whoever cheats has nothing to do with me. So be aware of this hadith actually. This hadith gives us the morals and manners of selling and buying. We Muslims aren't people that don't have any background. We just sell and buy without any morals and manners. No. Now this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ passed on this guy. And he saw him selling something. So he just put his hand in it to check it. He found that it's wet. Why is it wet? Which means that it's not proper. I mean, if you buy wet wheat that means it's ruined. You can't use it. Okay? So therefore, the Prophet ﷺ told him, what is this? He said, well, rain fall on it. So he said to him that you have to put it up so that people can see it. And when they see it, they would decide, should we buy it or not buy it? That's up to them. But when you put it down, they think that everything is proper. And this is a lot. You go to the markets, you find beautiful dates over the box, and the small dates and rude dates under the box. That's cheating. The same thing you find in apples and all types of fruits and stuff like that. And this is cheating actually. So therefore, the Prophet ﷺ says in the hadith, whoever cheats is not from me. من غش فليس مني. Another hadith, من غشنا فليس منا. Anyone who cheats us is not from us. Okay. So therefore, when you say whoever cheats is not from me, it's a general case. Don't cheat. No matter you're dealing with Muslims, you're dealing with non-Muslims, you're dealing with I don't know what. That's not up to you. I mean, their religion and their beliefs are for them. It would be judged in the judgment day. But for you, you have to be just with people. So therefore, it's haram to cheat people and okay. So when he says that he's not from me, doesn't mean that he's not Muslim. It means he's not he's not on my right path. It's like when you say to somebody, so bad what you're saying, or something like that. What you're saying is bad. What you're saying is not good. You don't seem as a real Muslim, something like that. Okay? So this means that uh, he's blaming anyone who cheats when he's selling and buying. وعن عبد الله بن بريدة رضي الله عن أبيه رضي الله عنهما قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من حبس العنب أيام القطاف حتى يبيعه ممن يتخذه خمرا فقد تقحم النار على بصيرة. رواه الطبراني في الأوسط بإسناد الحسن. So he says here narrated Abdullah ibn Buraidah on his father's authority, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah's Messenger ﷺ said, whoever hoards grapes in the vintage harvest season till he sells them to those who make wine from them has hastily thrown himself into hellfire with clear knowledge. Tabarani reported it in al-Awsat with a Hassan or good chain of narration. Now, some scholars say that this hadith is not authentic and it has several problems in it. But Hafiz ibn Hajar rahimahullah said that this hadith is sound. Let us uh, let us agree with Hafiz ibn Hajar rahimahullah, and he says that this hadith means that when you intend to do something and you know that you're doing it, you're responsible for what you did or for what you have done. And therefore, this means intention has a main thing. It has a main thing in giving in understanding the condition that you're speaking about. Now, this hadith is so clear that it's haram, it's forbidden for anybody to get to sell grapes to somebody who he knows that he's gonna turn them to wine. Turn them to wine. Now, all scholars agree about this. We don't care, is this guy who's going to buy them a Muslim or not a Muslim? As long as we know that he's going to turn them to wine, it's forbidden to sell it for them. Okay? But if in case that you don't know, you just came buying from you these grapes, and therefore, as long as you don't know, are you allowed to sell it to him? Are you allowed to sell grapes to somebody that you don't know what he's going to do with them? Especially if he's not a Muslim. Some scholars say, yeah, no problem about that. You can sell it to him because as long as you don't know, that's no problem. But if somebody bought it and you know that that guy is known to do wine, that's his job. Therefore, don't sell it. It's the same as when we spoke about ones who sell the idols. The one who sells idols, we know that selling idols is forbidden, and because you're helping that guy to worship something besides God Almighty. Okay? And this is a main ruling. Anything that people don't use it except in a wrong way, in something that is forbidden, therefore you're not allowed to sell it to them. Never sell things to whom you know without any doubt that they would use them in a wrong way. Yani, for example, if you were in a country that people are killing each other and you have weapons, you're not allowed to sell them weapons to kill each other in a wrong way. No. These, for example, two groups of people are killing each other. And both of them are wrongdoers. Therefore, you're not allowed to participate by selling them weapons. The same thing if you were in a place where people always just wear naked clothes or something like that. You're not allowed to sell naked clothes for people, for women to wear them near people outside, and you know that they're going to use them outside. And so this is the ruling here. Here, al-kharaj bil-daman, وعن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الخراج بالضمان رواه الخمسة ضعف البخاري وأبو داود وصححه الترمذي وابن خزيمة وابن جارود وابن حبان والحاكم وابن قطان. الخراج بالضمان. Narrated Aisha radiallahu anha, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, any prophet goes to the one who hears, who bears responsibility. Reported by al-Khamsa, Bukhari, and Abu Dawood graded it weak. At-Tirmidhi ابن خزيمة, ابن ابن الجارود, ابن حبان, الحاكم, and Ibn Qattan graded it Sahih. Okay, this hadith. Okay. This hadith has a story. What is the story? A man had a slave. So he remained in his house for some time. And then all of a sudden he discovered that this slave has a problem. So he went to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, "O Messenger of Allah, I found a problem in this slave." So the Prophet ﷺ told that guy, told the owner, the first owner of the slave, that your friend found a problem in this man found a problem in the slave that you bought him, you sold to him. So he said, "Messenger of Allah, he remained in his house for some time, which means that he used them. The slave worked in his house. So therefore, as if he wants to say that I want the cost of that because he worked in his house. So when he's going to give him back to me, he worked." So the Prophet ﷺ told him this hadith, which means that, well, he used to feed him, he used to give him food, he used to give him a place where to sleep. So actually, all of what you're saying has an opposite of it, which means that your slave has, yes, he worked in his house, but on the other side, he, or the new owner who bought the slave, he used to pay for that slave. And this happens now in our days. You might have a car, you bought a car, you used it, and then you discovered that it has a problem in it. When you give it back to its owner, you say, he tells you, "Well, you used it." I tell him, "Well, I put fuel in it and I put things in it and I washed it. I did a lot of things, It's the same thing, okay? So therefore, this hadith, some scholars say it's not an authentic hadith, but most scholars authenticize the hadith. Okay, I mentioned their names. So therefore, this hadith, we get from it that when you buy something and you use it and you pay for it, this is for this. The payments that you did, as long as it was in your house, is enough. You don't have to give it back to its owner. You don't have to pay him again for that. So you just give him back his commodity or his whatever you bought from him, and that's it. This needs, actually, scholars have several uh, uh, details about it. So there are details about this. It's not just like that. Yeah. Now, now scholars say that when you buy something, the benefits from it are several types of benefits. And it might be part of the animal or the commodity that you bought, or separated from it. So what is separated? Like pregnancy inside its stomach or womb, or like when it delivers a baby. Now, when it's pregnant and you give it back, it's connected with it. That's it. You have to give it back because it's part of it. But when it's separated from it, it's two types. It's either an origin type, like fruits that you get from a tree, or like rents or something like that, or hiring it or something like that. So when you give it back, you give it back and you add to it things that do you have to give it payments and stuff like that, or you don't have to do that? Imam Shafi'i says that if somebody bought something, he deserves all what is separated from it, and as long as it's in his house, or as long as he possesses it. So when he gives it back to its owner, he doesn't have to give the fruits or the interest from it. And therefore, he says that this hadith that we mentioned right now is the evidence of what he says. Kharaj bud-daman. Hanafi said no. The buyer deserves only things that are separate from the animal. But when its main interests, he has to give it back to its owner. And if it gets ruined, he can give it the whole commodity back. And the buyer needs only the the difference, the difference of the cost, because the cost becomes less than it was. So he needs the difference. That's it. And this is what he said in the problem of the breast, that the milk, and the stuff like that we mentioned before. So it's the same opinion actually. Okay. So this is the same idea. And to tell you something important, that this hadith supports this opinion. Why? Because the hadith says that as long as he was in your house, you paid for him. You feeded him. You gave a lot of things for him. So therefore, when you give him back, you don't have to pay anything again. You don't have to pay anything anymore. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. What do the majority scholars say? What is the difference between this and the other, the musarrats? Maybe we can say that it didn't stay a lot in his house. Maybe, I don't know how to say about that. Okay. Okay, here he says, وعن عروة البارقي رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أعطاه دينارا يشتري به أضحية أو شاة، فاشترى به شاتين، فباع إحداهما بدينار، فأتاه بشاة ودينار، فدعا له بالبركة في بيعه، فكان لو اشترى ترابا لربح فيه. رواه الخمسة إلا النسائي، وقد أخرجه البخاري في ضمن الحديث ولم يسق لفظه، وورد له الترمذي شاهدا من حديث حكيم بن حزام. Narrated Urwat al-Bariqi radiallahu anhu, the Prophet ﷺ gave him a dinar to buy a sacrificial animal for a sheep. He bought 2 sheep with it. Instead of buying 1, he bought 2. The Prophet asked him to buy only one, but he bought two. He gave him okay. He bought 2 sheep with him, sold one of them for a dinar, and came back to him with a goat and a dinar. So he invoked blessings on him in his business dealings. And he was such that if he had bought soil of the earth, he would have made a profit from it. Reported by al-Khamsa, except al-Khamsa, except oh, wait a second here. Al-Nasa'i. Al-Bukhari also recorded it within another hadith, but didn't report its exact wording. At-Tirmidhi reported a shahid, supporting narration of a shahid, supporting narration of similar meanings for it from the hadith of Hakim ibn Hizam radiallahu anhu. This is an interesting hadith. Now this Urwatul Bariqi radiallahu anhu was a great guy that knows how to sell and buy. He was a trader. And this means that's the one who goes and sells with your money without asking your permission. His action is valid as long as the owner agrees about that. We're going to see that. So therefore, if he buys something and you agree about it, it's proper. Urwa here wasn't permitted to buy 2 animals or 2 rams. The Prophet ﷺ asked him to buy only one. He went buying 2, and he sold one, and he came back to the Prophet ﷺ with his ram at the cost, as if he bought it with no money, as if he just got it like a gift. And this type of transactions are called, according to our scholars, stopped transactions. Bay'un mawquf. Why? Because it's not considered as a valid transaction as long as the owner agrees. If the Prophet ﷺ told him, I didn't tell you to buy this and sell this, I just told you to go and buy me 1 ram with this dinar. Why did you go? No, he didn't tell him. Because the Prophet ﷺ was pleased with what he did. That's why he prayed for him, invoked that he would become rich and all his actions would be glorified. So therefore, this type of transactions, which is called Bay' al-Fuduli, and Fudul is in English, what is Fudul? Fudul is curiosity. No, it's yeah, it's curiosity, which means you go doing something without anybody giving you the permission, and it's not yours. So if it was yours, that's your right to do whatever you want. But you go doing something in somebody else's money without taking permission from them. In this case, many people would tell you, I didn't tell you to do that. You have to follow my orders, not to do whatever your mind tells you. So therefore, the majority of Imam Malik and most of scholars said that this is a type of commodity transaction that when the owner agrees about it, it's valid. Others said it's an unvalid transaction. It's not considered as Imam Shafi'i says this because the Prophet ﷺ says, don't sell anything that you don't possess. So therefore, this is in any type of transaction. Abu Hanifa says it's valid, but it's, well, actually, Abu Hanifa's opinion is similar to the majority of people, majority of scholars' opinion. Okay, so it's the same idea. Okay, we get from this hadith something, another good, beautiful thing, which is if your servants or anybody works with you, or your students, or your son does something proper, it's good to give him a gift, or to pray for him, to invoke Allah for him, or to tell him beautiful words, to encourage him to do that again, so that you encourage him to do that again. Okay, now here there are several transactions that were in the ancient days in the world in those days. I don't know, even only in the Arabic world or everywhere. عن أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم نهى عن شراء ما في بطون الأنعام حتى تضع، وعن بيع ما في ضروعها، وعن شراء العبد وهو آبق، وعن شراء المغانم حتى تقسم، وعن شراء الصدقات حتى تقبض، وعن ضربة الغائص. رواه ابن ماجه والبزار والدارقطني بإسناد ضعيف. وعن ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: لا تشتروا السمك في الماء فإنه غرر. رواه أحمد وأشار إلى أن الصواب وقفه. وعن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال نهى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أن تباع ثمرة حتى تطعم، ولا يباع صوف على ظهر، ولا لبن في ضرع. رواه الطبراني في الأوسط والدارقطني. وأخرجه أبو داود في المراسيل لعكرمة وهو الراجح. وأخرجه أيضا موقوفا على ابن عباس بإسناد قوي ورجحه البيهقي. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم نهى عن بيع المضامين والملاقيح. رواه البزار في إسناده ضعف. All these narrations are weak, but the meanings are authentic. And some of them are from the saying of his companions. So anyway, the main idea is right, is authentic. So no problem about that. And there are several narrations that support these narrations. Let me read them for you. And then, okay, and then give narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu, the Prophet ﷺ forbade buying what is in the wombs of domestic animals till they give birth. Selling what is in their uders, buying a runaway slave, buying something from the spoils of war until they are divided, buying sadaqat, charities, before they are received, and the unknown catch fine of the diver. Ibn Majah, al-Bazzar, and Abu Hanifa. No, and Bazzar and Daraqutni reported it with a weak chain of narrators. Narrated Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, don't buy the fish that is in the water, for it involves uncertainty, risk. reporting by Ahmed, who indicated that the connect view is that it is marfu' or it is mawquf, saying of the companion of the Prophet, which here is Ibn Mas'ud. Narrated Ibn Abbas of the line, Allah's Messenger forbade the selling of fruits till it becomes ripe, or the selling it. Okay. Narrated Ibn Abbas of the line, Allah's Messenger forbade the selling of a fruit till it becomes ripe, or the selling of for pure, which is still on the back of the animal. Okay? So selling of fruits till it becomes ripe, or selling a for which is still on the back of an animal, or milk which is still in the door. Okay, this hadith, free Allah. Reported by Ad-Darqutni in al-Awsat, the middle book of Imam Tabarani. Ad-Darqutni also reported it. Abu Dawood reported it in al-Marasil, and a saying of Ikrimah, and that is the strongest opinion. He also reported it. Mawquf, as a saying of the companion Ibn Abbas, with a strong chain of narrators. Al-Bayhaqi held it on to the narrators, and Al-Bayhaqi held it to the most correct narrations. Narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, the Prophet ﷺ forbade the sale of what is in the womb of a she-camel, and the semen that is in the body of a male camel. Okay? Narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, the Prophet ﷺ forbade the sale of what is in the womb of a she-camel, and the same that is in the body of the camel. Cost or reported by Al-Bazzar, and there is weakness in the isnad, great chain of narrators. Narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, and Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أقال مسلما بيعه قال الله عثرته يوم القيامة. Okay? Whoever accepts back what he had sold to a Muslim, Allah will forgive his fault. Reported by Abu Dawood and Ibn Majah, and Ibn Hibban and Hakim graded it Sahih, authentic. So let us see what is this, and this is actually the end of this chapter. After that, we're going to take something else. Okay. La ilaha illallah. These narrations, we derive from them that all these types of transactions are forbidden because they contain risk. They are risky, and that leads to conflict between the two parties. It shows how the ignorant people were in their era, and how people or traders used to trick people. They trick them by making them feel that they're gaining, but actually they're not gaining. All these types of transactions that are mentioned in these narrations, it's haram according to all scholars. No conflict between scholars about that. And anybody who does these transactions or uh, or 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 commits these types of things is a wrongdoer. And therefore, when you buy something in the wombs of its mothers, it's a risk. It might die, it might grow, it might not grow. So it's something that the buyer cannot guarantee you that he's going to give it to you. If you buy something that escaped, an animal that escaped, or here he mentioned the slave, you're going to search for it. You might find it, you might not find it. So that how can you buy something you can't guarantee to get it? If you go buying the booties before its owner gets it, you don't know how much does he get, how much is he going to get, and when is he going to get it, and all these types of things. If you go buying something from somebody that is hunting, or buying fish under the sea, he doesn't know when is he going to get, what type of fishes are he going to is he going to get, and if he gets it, are you going to be pleased with it or not? And all these types of things are like that. All of them are like that. So therefore, let's stop here, and you can ask me questions, because the chapter is finished here. And okay, there's here. Oh, wait a second. Actually, the author here gave a lot of the. Okay, I won't. I won't speak about that because that's a long thing. I'll just stop here, inshallah, and give you the opportunity to ask, and then we can later on enter the new chapter. Okay, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I wanted to clarify, when you're talking about buying what is in the wombs of the animals, you're just talking about buying just what is to be born and not the mother, because a lot of time when I buy livestock, we see that the sheep or the cow are pregnant. So those transactions are valid because you are taking a risk. You may be paying a little bit more because it's pregnant, but you're buying the mother, and so that is different from what you're saying.
Yeah, that's different, because here you're buying only what is in her womb.
Okay. And you know, Sheikh, these transactions and this kind of fraud happens even now. They will sell calves or lambs that do not belong to the mothers because what they're selling is sick. So they want you to believe. So alhamdulillah. So I just wanted to clarify on the mother as well as that. Jazakallah khairan.
Yes.
Sheikh, just a clarification question about selling things that someone might use for haram. So, for example, if we live in the United States and let's say we make computers, and we know that a lot of people use computers to spread shirk or look at something haram, or let's say we live in the United States again and we're selling a tool like a knife or something like that, and we know that they're going to use it to cut haram meat or something like that. So we know that living in this society, selling the tool, which in a Muslim society would be halal, but here we are sure that people are going to use it for haram. Is it still haram?
No, it's not haram, because you can't say you're sure that he's going to cut something haram. What do you mean by you're sure? He buys a knife that is used at home. How can you say you're sure that it's haram? What type of haram is he going to do?
Well, let's say we live in a country where we know that the meat is not halal.
No, that's not the idea. Because cutting his meat, that's up to him. He's going to eat it. He's going to eat it because he's kafir. He's not Muslim. You didn't give him the meat. You just give them the knife, and he's gonna cut his food. He can't stay without cutting food, you know. So therefore, I'm not speaking about this. I'm speaking about something that is haram and it affects the society, and you know that it's haram because look now when you give him grapes and he's gonna change it and it's gonna become wine. So the wine is haram actually. But actually, look, even in the Islamic states, in the Islamic society, non-Muslims are allowed to sell wine between each other, but you aren't supposed to sell it to them, or you're not going to sell it to them or give it to them, you know? Because let me tell you something important. You know that people of scriptures, Jews or Christians, they don't have anything in their books that forbids wine. You know that? So therefore, wine wasn't forbidden in the Mosaic law, and Jews and Christians were not in the ancient days, were not forbade from drinking wine. They were forbade from getting drunk. And you can find in the Bible always that it condemns drunk people who do false acts, but it doesn't condemn drinking wine. And there are some types of things in Christianity, even maybe even in Judaism. You drink wine in the church. They drink a small cup of wine. You see, and they claim it's Jesus' blood. Astaghfirullah. But anyway, so the wine is not forbidden in Christianity and Judaism, and the Mosaic law. So therefore, for us Muslims, are we allowed to give them things that they would make wine with it? They're going to make wine with it. Some scholars nowadays discuss about this. Are you allowed to work in how do you call it? In a place where it's, huh?
You're talking like a place, a slaughterhouse that does non-dhabiha, or are we still on khamr?
No. For example, you work in
A brewery where they sell beer
supermarket or
He's talking about
yeah,
like a restaurant or something like that, like a matam.
restaurant or a supermarket or something that sells wine and stuff like that, and they're not Muslim. So are you allowed to do that or not? There are two opinions. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ gave Umar radiallahu anhu a type of cloth. It's from silk. When he wore it, the Prophet ﷺ told him, "Why did you wear that? You're not allowed to wear that." He said, "I thought that you gave it to me to wear it." So he went cutting it and he gave it to the woman. And there's another story that he gave something to his brother that wasn't Muslim. And it's forbidden for Muslims to do it. He had a brother in Mecca, he's not Muslim, so he just gave it to him as a gift. So is it permissible for you to do something like that? For example, you bought a candy that contains wine and you have a Christian or a non-Muslim friend. Are you allowed to give him that? Well, there are some opinions here actually, according to this idea. And there are another, because the idea is, are the people of the non-Muslims, are they responsible to follow the Islamic Sharia, or they're not responsible to do so? Now, when we say this is actually an usuli aspect, which means they say in Arabic, هل الكفار مخاطبون بفروع الشريعة, which means in the Judgment Day, are they responsible to pray and fast Ramadan and do all these types of things, but they can't do it unless they become Muslim? Two opinions according to scholars. But the most strongest opinion is that yes, they are. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, قالوا ما سلككم في سقر. They told him, what put you in hellfire? قالوا لم نكن من المصلين. They said we didn't used to pray. ولم نكن نطعم المسكين. We didn't used to give. قالوا لم نكن مصلين. وَلَمْ نَكُنْ نُطْعِمُ الْمِسْكِينَ وَكُنَّا نَخُوضُ مَعَ. We didn't used to give needies food, and we used to do bad things with anybody who does it. وَكُنَّا نُكَذِّبُ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ. We used to reject Judgment Day. What is kufr here? It's the last one. The other ones are types of sins. But the last one is kufr. To reject Judgment Day is kufr. So here they say that are the kuffar ordered to follow the branches or the details of the Islamic jurisprudence? Yes, they are. So therefore, are they considered, do they have to avoid anything that is haram in our Sharia? And if they do it, we're not allowed to help them doing it? Here where the question is. And we have, actually, for me, I would tell you, stop that and don't do it. But in the Islamic states, Umar radiallahu anhu, when he heard that somebody helped the non-Muslims sell wine, and he took the money from them, he was so angry for that. He said, let them sell it to each other, and you just take the money, the taxes, you know? So they do that between themselves, but you're not supposed to help them do that. You see? Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala.
طيب شيخ the difficulty is that لو الكفار مخاطبون بفروع الشريعة but نحن المسلمون عايشين, we live in their country, even something that is very very simple or innocuous, they can take it and then use it for haram. So is it possible to take the Hanafi view that they're not mukhatab, or like the view of this hadith, a different view, just to make life easier if you're living in a non-Muslim country? Because even something very, very simple, like even if you have a halal restaurant, you know that a lot of the people that will come will be a non-mahram man and a non-mahram woman, for example. Just a lot of very simple things, they become haram in this environment.
Sorry. This is not only in non-Muslim countries, even in our countries most people aren't strict in following the Sharia, and they might just, well, this needs actually a bunch of scholars to discuss about all these details. But you know, sometimes when you have several opinions, it makes life more easier.
جزاكم الله خير شيخنا.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam.
I had a question about from last, I think it was last week or the week before, where it mentioned that, selling pets like cats and dogs is not permitted. There was a situation, and that brought that question to mind, that sometimes people will find a litter of cat, newborns or babies, and then they're looking for somebody to adopt them, so that those babies, don't die. However, the advice a lot of people give is, don't just randomly give any of these or any cats without charging something, because there are people who use these animals when they get them for free as baits. They'll do a dog fight or something. And so, and again, these are not necessarily Muslims I'm talking about, but if a Muslim finds a cat or a bunch of kittens, for the safety of the cat or kitten, they just don't want to give it to somebody for free, not knowing how they will treat those cats, and they put a price on it so that somebody serious who really wants to take care of the cats gets them. What is your opinion about a situation like that?
I spoke about selling cats, and I said that the majority of scholars say it's not forbidden. It's not forbidden to sell cats, actually.
Oh, okay, maybe I misunderstood then. Okay, Jazakallah khair.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, Sheikh, Assalamu alaikum. We're still studying from Dar al-Salam's edition of Bulugh al-Maram, right? That's the one you're reading from?
Yeah, that's where I'm reading from. Is there any other copy?
There's several
or
other
edition?
English editions. There's just posting from Sunnah.com, and I was following with you in the book, so I didn't know. I was confused.
Yeah. We're in page 266.
Oh, no. I was just because the chat there's hadith going from another source. I was just wondering if it
Oh, yeah.
changed because I haven't
Okay.
been here in a while.
Yeah. You're welcome. Okay. Therefore, if there's no questions, let's carry on.
Sheikh, one
Alhamdulillah.
other
Yeah.
question. It's hadith number 685, where it says any profit goes to the one who bears responsibility. I don't think I'm fully clear on that. Could you explain that a little bit more?
Now, if you, okay, let us say that you bought a pet, okay? You bought a cat.
Okay.
And the cat remained in your house for some time. All of a sudden, you discover that it has a problem. For example, it's sick or something like that. But you kept the whole time feeding it. The pet was in your house. You used to give it food. You used to give it milk. You used to take care of it. And after that time, you said to the original owner that your cat you cheated me actually. It has a problem and you didn't tell me and stuff like that. So I'm going to give it back to you. So when you want to give it back to him, he says, well, it remained in your house for several times. You have to pay me the difference between the times. Here you're going to tell him, well, the time it was in my house, I used to feed it. I used to give it so and so. I used to take care of it. It used to sleep in a good place. That's enough. This is the opposite. This is the opposite of this. It remained with me, but I used to take care of it. I benefit from it sometime, and it benefit from me. Now, zero between us. This is the case. Did you understand this now?
But then what profit are they talking about in terms of bearing the responsibility? Any profit goes to the one who bears responsibility. What profit are we looking at here?
Well, the hadith was speaking about a slave. The slave used to work at the house, and as long as he worked, the owner says, well, he remained in your house some time and he worked for you. So you have to pay me that time as if I rented you my slave,
Okay. So
So he
the
told them, yeah, the Prophet ﷺ said to him, well, the time he remained with them, he used to feed them, he used to give them. And he discovered that he has a problem. So he gave the slave back to you. You see?
So whatever profit the person who bought the slave originally, he fed him, he kept him, and whatever profit he made off of that slave, he keeps it. He doesn't give it back when he returns the
Yes,
slave
exactly.
or defect.
Yes,
Okay, exactly. Okay, that's clear now. Okay,
yeah.
exactly.
I wish all students are understanding the lectures and things are going easy. Yes, maybe the chapters of transactions are more difficult than the chapters of worships. And this is actually obvious because we're now speaking about in terms of jurisprudence that is similar to jurisprudence that people study in the universities in the um, uh, universities of rights and stuff like that. So it's the same thing as if people are studying what they become after that, judges and lawyers and stuff like that. Because this part of and subhanallah, do you know that there's a Christian scholar he was a lawyer actually in the Ottoman Empire. He was originally from Lebanon in the Ottoman Empire, and he made a good commentary on the Ottoman law that was derived from the Hanafi school. It's called Majallatul called مجلة الأحكام العدلية، مجلة الأحكام مجلة الأحكام العدلية, which means it's the law, the actually it's the law that has to do with the jurisprudence, not worships, transactions, buying, selling, hiring, all these types of things. So there was a Christian lawyer that made a commentary on it, and it's one of the good commentaries. Why? Because he is a lawyer and he's using a law. So he made commentary on it, not from the religious perspective, from the legal perspective, you know. So therefore, this is what we're studying right now. Now I'm going to speak about a very interesting thing, a chapter that speaks about the choices, which means when you buy or sell, you have the choice to make the transaction go or stop it. When are you supposed to do that? When are you allowed to stop it? This is what we're going to see right now. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أقال مسلما أقاله الله عثرته رواه أبو داود وابن ماجه وصححه ابن حبان والحاكم. Narrated Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه, Allah's Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم said, whoever accepts back what he had sold to a Muslim, Allah will forgive his faults. Reported by Abu Dawood and Ibn Majah. Ibn Hibban and al-Hakim graded it as authentic. This hadith means that you're allowed to nullify the transaction if the other part doesn't want it anymore. He doesn't want it for any reason. We don't know what is the reason to nullify this. He didn't like it. He felt he regretted. He said, "Oh, actually, I didn't eat why I didn't like it, or any reason." So therefore, is he allowed to do that? Well, it's a type of beautiful Islamic moral to do so, but it's not. You're not obliged to do that. So therefore, therefore, the Prophet ﷺ encourages the traders to do this, as long as that doesn't affect their trade, actually. Okay. And as long as you are kind to your brothers, Allah Almighty would be kind for you, because He says, if you forgive them, I'll forgive you in the Judgment Day. And you would like to be forgiven in the Judgment Day, actually. You see? Shafi'is consider this new transaction, as it was nullifying the first transaction. So it's only nullifying it. Therefore, you're not allowed to take more money than you gave, because it's just nullifying the original transaction. The Hanafis and others, not only the Hanafis and others say that it's a new transaction, as if I'm gonna sell, or I'm gonna you bought this from me, I'm gonna buy it again. So it's a new transaction. And when it's a new transaction, I could ask for demand for I can demand for a new cost. I'll tell you, well, I bought it You bought it from me with 10, I want it with 15. In this case, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to do that. Every one of these two groups has his evidence. And you can go back to that. We didn't mention this here. Okay. عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا تبايع الرجلان فكل واحد منهما بالخيار ما لم يتفرقا وكانا جميعا أو يخير أحدهما الآخر فإن خير أحدهما الآخر فتبايع على ذلك قد وجب البيع وإن تفرقا بعد أن تبايعا ولم يترك واحد منهما البيع فقد وجب البيع متفق عليه مع بقية الجماعة واللفظ لمسلم. Narrated Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, Allah's Messenger said both parties in a business transaction have a right to annul the transactions so long as they have not separated and remained together, or one of them gives the other the choice to conclude or annul the transaction. So if one of them gives the other the choice to conclude or annul the transaction, and then they make the transaction accordingly, the transaction then becomes binding. Or if they separate after having made the transaction and none of them had annulled it, the transaction then becomes binding, agreed upon, and the wording is Muslims. Okay, this hadith actually is an authentic hadith. Now, he says here that they separated. Is it separation by their bodies or separation by their uders? Which means they stopped the subjects and they spoke about something else. That's separation. Because actually, this transaction cannot always be as you can see it. It can be by a phone. Is it when you stop the phone, that's it? Or if you change the subject, that means you separate it. In the Quran, we can see that separation can be by subjects and separation can be by the body. So this depends. We have two meanings that the language can help in one of them, because we have the problem. Actually, we need something else from out of the language to show us. So therefore, or one of them would give the permission to another one to do whatever he wants. It's in the same time. Or he could tell him, well, you have 3 days, go and see and do whatever you want and come back. So therefore, this is considered as a transaction that is valid. And as long as he didn't nullify it, it's considered as a valid transaction. Because he says if one of them gives the permission to the other to choose, the transaction is valid. Okay? So therefore, any transaction that the two parties separate, it's considered as a valid transaction, and they are supposed to carry on the transaction. This one has to give the commodity, the other one has to give the money. Now, this case doesn't always happen. This case doesn't always happen. Let us see. Now we understand from this hadith that we have here what is called khiyarul majlis, the choice of sitting down, which means you have the opportunity, the permissibility to continue to continue and carry on the transaction or stop it. Imam Shafi'i, Ahmad bin Hanbal, Ishaq bin Rahawayh, and most of the Sahaba and most of the Tabi'een say this. And they say this hadith is so clear about that. And that these two got separated by their body, not by their subjects. Which means that as long as I'm still in the market and we discussed about something and then I made up my mind, I can come back to you and tell you, well, I don't want to buy this commodity and I want to nullify the whole transaction. You have the right to do that. He can't tell you you bought it from me. That's it. But when you separate, he can tell you that. He said, oh, I'm sorry. Now the transaction finished and you don't have the right to do that unless I agree. Okay? It doesn't matter if you remained in the market for a long time or you just went out. It doesn't have anything to do with that. Now the question is, what about if the whole transaction wasn't by physically by your bodies? It was by an application. It was by a phone. It was by anything like these types of things. Well, I can say that any type of application or anything, what do I mean by the culture? The meanings that people, as long as they have a meaning, which is in Arabic al-urf, the customs, I think, the customs, right? The customs are the ones that are going to show us how to deal with this, the customs. Okay? So it doesn't have anything to do with what we're going to say right now. Now Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik, or the Hanafis and the Malikis, say that this is not considered as separation by body, it's separation by subjects. And then Imam Abu Hanifa said a word. He said, what if they were in a boat? What if they were in somewhere that they can't get separated? I'm with you in a boat in the sea, and I decided to buy something from you. We'll never get separated until we go back home. So he says that's the difference, separation by subjects. And as long as they're still discussing about the subject, he has the right to go back and nullify and make up his mind or continue. But after that, when they finish the subject and they speak about something else or they stop speaking, it's considered a valid transaction. And they gave several evidence about that. The first evidence is that Allah Almighty said in the Quran, Surah An-Nisa, verse number 29, لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم. Don't eat your money or your property between each other with a false way, unless it's a trading that both of you are pleased with. So therefore, you're not allowed to eat your brother's money unless he's pleased with that. Now, if you claim that this choice, which is called khiyarul majlis, the choice of the place that you're sitting in, if you consider it as a valid choice, he would say, unless it's a trading after agreeing, although you separate it from each other. So therefore, they don't agree about this. Imam Malik says, or his companions say, that Imam Malik did not say. Imam Malik narrated this hadith in his book, but he didn't mention what it contains literally, because we don't know how much are they going to stay. So therefore, if we say that as long as he's still there, he can make up his mind, he might stay 1 hour, a quarter of an hour, and this is a risk. And the Prophet ﷺ prevented us from risky transactions. So therefore, this is why Imam Malik said after narrating this hadith, this is not something that we have in our, he means عندنا, which means the Madini school or in Medina, and it's not considered in our country. Hanafis and Malikis said that this hadith doesn't mean that they don't agree about the hadith. The hadith is authentic. They can't reject the hadith. But they say that it's not separating by your body, it's separating by subjects. And they said that what supports that, it's the word al-bay'an. That means the two parties that are selling to each other or selling and buying. And this means that as long as they're discussing about this subject, they are selling and buying. If they speak about any other subject, that means they changed up their mind. Therefore, they're not anymore buyers and sellers. They're friends or whatever, call it anything else. So the hadith doesn't implement on them. This is what they say. And then they say, إِلَّا أَن يُخَيِّرَ أَحَدُهُمَ الْآخَرَ, and فَإِنْ خَيَّرَ أَحَدُهُمَ الْآخَرَ عَلَى خِيَارِ الشَّرْطِ, they say, unless, the Prophet says, unless one of them gives the permission to another one, they say this means that if it's a condition in the transaction. So if the condition is in the transaction, that's fine, no problem about that. But if it's not fine. Now the first group, Shafi'is and Hanbalis, say, guys, what are you saying? This hadith doesn't have anything to do with the conflict that you claim. The hadith and the verse are both like each other. So the verse is an open verse, and the hadith is a close case. So therefore, the close cases don't conflict with an open case. The close cases give you more meaning for the open case, and therefore we say that. And when you say that the time is, there's a risk here, there's no risk, because it's not a big risk actually. It's something that the culture shows us and makes us and it accepts that the culture and the meaning that people understand with each other, and especially in the markets and stuff like that, that would give us the time and stuff like that. So there's nothing here that is like that. And the hadith actually has to be implemented, and the hadith is actually so clear. Okay. The hadith here, after that, gives more meanings of this hadith. عن عمرو بن شعيب عن أبيه عن جده رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: البائع والمبتاع بالخيار حتى يتفرقا إلا أن يكون صفقة خيار ولا يحل له أن يفارقه خشية أن يستقيل. رواه الخمسة إلا ابن ماجه. Okay, let's just leave it here. If you have any questions, just leave it here. If you have any question, I'll be happy to answer your questions, or else that's enough today.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Yeah. Wait a second. Lubna here has.
Yeah.
Sheikh, would you be able to give us an example of what the separation means in this hadith?
I think, Sheikh, I'm just a little bit confused about what the hadith actually means.
Yeah. Now look. Now you went to a market. Okay. You want to buy something, and you got those commodities. You bought this and this and this and this, and you're still in the market. You went. You came here. You put them until you go and get something else, and then you said, and you paid them, but you're still there. All of a sudden, you decided, yeah, I said, okay, I don't want this anymore. Look, this doesn't. I don't want it anymore. You give it back to them, and you want to take your money again. Are you allowed to do that? According to Hanbalis and Shafi'is, yes, because you're still in the market. So you're allowed to do that. According to Malikis and Hanafis, as long as you changed the subject that you were speaking about, you went to do something else, that's it. You're not allowed to do that. Did you get it?
Yes, I got it. Jazakallah khair.
You're welcome. Okay, I think we'll stop here. That's it. See you, inshallah, next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.